15 worst junkies in R&B history. Behind the shimmering sequins and the soul-stirring melodies of R&B history lies a graveyard of shattered dreams and silenced voices. We celebrate their genius, but we rarely speak of the chemical demons that turn global icons into street-side casualties. From the king of pop's clinical nightmare to legendary divas lost in the fog of addiction, the price of fame was often paid in blood and broken spirits. Was it the pressure of the pedestal, or did the industry simply devour its greatest stars? Today, we peel back the velvet curtain. Before we dive into 15 harrowing stories, hit that subscribe button and join the Black Excellence Legends family. You won't want to miss a single chapter of this raw, unfiltered journey. Samuel Moore. Samuel Moore stood as a colossus of the soul era, an artist whose vocal pyrotechnics with the duo Sam and Dave ignited the 1960s music scene. However, behind the sweat-soaked suits and the chart-topping anthems like Soul Man, a devastating internal war was raging. Moore's journey is a quintessential example of how the heights of stardom can lead to a precipitous fall into the abyss of substance abuse. Following the professional fracture with his partner Dave Prater in 1970, Moore didn't just lose a collaborator, he lost his anchor. He plunged headlong into a harrowing 15-year cycle of heroin and cocaine dependency. During this grim chapter, the man who once commanded the world's most prestigious stages found himself trapped in a labyrinth of needles and white powder. His life became a blur of desperation, punctuated by stints in jail and a terrifying brush with death when a jealous husband shot him. The soul man was vanishing, replaced by a ghost haunted by his own cravings. The financial and commercial fallout was absolute. Multiple attempts to reunite with Prater failed because the chemical fog was too thick to penetrate. Moore wasn't just a casual user, he was a prisoner of his habits, watching his royalty checks and reputation vanish into thin air. It wasn't until 1982, during a tour in Europe, that a beacon of hope appeared in the form of Joyce McCrae. McCrae became the architect of his salvation, guiding him through the grueling process of detoxification and reclaiming his dignity. Because of her intervention, Moore managed to break the chains that had bound him for over a decade. He emerged from the darkness to witness his own induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, proving that even after 15 years in the clutches of addiction, the human spirit, and a voice that powerful, can still find its way back home. Etta James. The matriarch of R&B, Etta James, possessed a raw, guttural resonance that defined the blues. Yet her private existence was a chaotic storm of self-destruction. Beyond the glamour of her signature ballads like At Last, she navigated a treacherous path fueled by a severe compulsion for smack and liquor that spanned several decades. Her craving was so insatiable that the legendary songstress descended into a life of petty criminality, resorting to check fraud, forging medical prescriptions, and even pilfering from those closest to her to sustain her expensive habit. The legal system eventually caught up with the Tell Mama star. Throughout the 60s and 70s, James became a frequent fixture in courtrooms, narrowly avoiding lengthy incarceration through court-mandated rehabilitation. One pivotal moment occurred in 1973 when she was confined to the Tarzana Psychiatric Hospital for 17 months. While this period was meant for healing, she found herself ensnared in a new trap, a heavy reliance on methadone mixed with illicit substances. Her memoir, Rage to Survive, vividly captures this period of instability where the boundary between sanity and chemical numbness blurred. Even as she aged and cemented her status as a musical icon, the demons remained persistent. James's journey was a revolving door of clinics and relapses, often triggered by toxic relationships with men who shared her vices. As late as 2010, the singer was forced to re-enter a facility to address a growing problem with prescription narcotics, showing that the struggle never truly ends. James didn't just sing the blues, she lived them in their most visceral, painful form. Her narrative serves as a stark testament to the relentless nature of dependency, proving that even the most gifted artists can spend a lifetime fighting to stay afloat while their voices continue to enchant the world. Amy Winehouse. Amy Winehouse burst onto the global stage with a voice that felt centuries old, a raw, expressive contralto that effortlessly fused jazz, soul, and reggae. Yet her meteoric rise was instantaneously shadowed by a very public and devastating descent into a chemical ordeal. At the absolute zenith of her fame, Winehouse was ensnared in a toxic romance with various heavy narcotics and potent libations. The summer of 2007 marked a terrifying nadir when she was hospitalized following an overdose on a lethal cocktail that included ketamine, ecstasy, and hard street substances. Behind the iconic beehive hair and heavy eyeliner, Amy was facing a multi-front war involving self-harm, crippling depression, and severe eating disorders. The consequences of her affliction were stark, leading to canceled tours and the humiliation of being barred from entering the US for the Grammy Awards due to failed screenings. Friend Lily Allen noted the profound tragedy, seeing a brilliant, witty intellect hidden beneath the tabloid facade of someone constantly portrayed as being out of her mind. While she made a valiant effort to sever ties with illicit compounds around 2008, proclaiming she didn't want to do this anymore, she merely traded one poison for another. Alcohol became her new tormentor, leading to severe periods of binge drinking interspersed with fragile sobriety. Despite escaping charges after a scandalous 2009 video appeared to show her inhaling dangerous vapors from a pipe, her body couldn't sustain the punishment. Her untimely passing in 2011 at age 27 was the grim conclusion to a life consumed by a relentless, toxic embrace, leaving the world wondering what masterpieces were lost to the chaos. Michael Jackson. The undisputed king of pop, Michael Jackson, stood as an unrivaled global icon, an entertainer whose innovations shattered barriers and redefined popular culture. Yet beneath the sequin glove and the gravity-defying stage presence lay a profound, hidden agony. His descent wasn't into the gritty world of street substances, but rather a complex pharmaceutical crisis that began innocently enough following a 1993 scalp surgery. Jackson confessed that the immense pressure cooker of superstardom, combined with the emotional toll of defending himself against damaging allegations, left him depleted, fueling a growing reliance on potent prescription remedies to function and cope with pain. As the years progressed, this need escalated into a desperate, private regimen. By 2009, facing the colossal physical demands of his highly anticipated This Is It residency, Jackson was crippled by severe, relentless insomnia. He sought refuge through increasingly dangerous medical avenues, specifically demanding propofol, a powerful surgical anesthetic he viewed as the only viable milk to induce sleep. Despite dire warnings from some health professionals that he might never wake up, his need prevailed. On June 25, 2009, assisted by a personal physician and facilitated by a shadowy network of enablers and nearly 24 fake identities used to secure medications like benzodiazepines and opioids, Jackson received a final, fatal administration. The world lost its greatest performer to a clinical dependency that proved far more powerful than his fame. Bobby DeBarge. Bobby DeBarge Jr. was the quintessential vocal architect of a musical dynasty, a man whose soaring, celestial falsetto served as the blueprint for the entire DeBarge family's legendary success. As the charismatic frontman of the funk soul powerhouse Switch, his artistic reach seemed limitless. However, beneath the angelic melodies lay a gritty, subterranean reality, a chronic, lifelong entanglement with heroin that ultimately redirected his trajectory from the top of the charts to the cold confines of a jail cell. The gravity of his compulsion reached a breaking point in 1988. In a desperate maneuver, perhaps fueled by the sheer weight of his habits, Bobby was apprehended alongside his brother Chico for coordinating a significant narcotics distribution operation. Caught transporting over 2 pounds of cocaine at the Detroit airport, the musical prodigy was handed a 5-year sentence in a Wisconsin correctional facility. This wasn't merely a career hiatus, it was a profound stripping away of his dignity. While behind bars, Bobby faced an even grimmer adversary, a diagnosis of HIV, a silent, devastating consequence of the high-risk lifestyle that had already robbed him of his freedom. Upon his release in 1993, he attempted a poignant reclamation of his artistry. He poured his remaining strength into new material, eventually unveiling the album It's Not Over in 1995. The title was a brave declaration of resilience, a final shout into the void, but his body was already betraying him. As AIDS complications rapidly ravaged his system, the once vibrant performer retreated to his roots in Michigan to spend his final chapters in the quiet, somber confines of a hospice. At just 39, the voice that once defined an era of soul was silenced, leaving behind a legacy that serves as a heartbreaking warning about the perils of the fast life. Kem's narrative offers a rare, luminous contrast to the otherwise somber annals of R&B's most troubled souls. Long before he became a cornerstone of Motown's modern roster, Kim Owens was a man drowning in the unforgiving urban wilderness of Detroit. His ordeal wasn't merely a flirtation with vice, it was a total immersion in destitution and chemical dependency that eventually rendered him homeless. While the world would later know him for his smooth, jazzy compositions, his early years were spent navigating the cold pavement, a casualty of the very junkie lifestyle that claims so many of his peers. What distinguishes Kem is the grueling grit he displayed while at his absolute rock bottom. He didn't just wait for a miracle, he labored for it. Working as a waiter and performing in wedding bands, he funneled every meager cent into self-financing his debut project, Chemistry. This was a man fighting 2 wars, one against the cravings that threatened to consume him, and another against an industry that rarely gives second chances to those living in the shadows of society. His credit cards were maxed out, his spirit was tested, but his resolve remained unshakable. By the time Motown scouted him in 2001, Kem had already undergone a profound spiritual and physical metamorphosis. His eventual ascent to gold certification wasn't just a commercial victory, it was a public reclamation of a life nearly lost to the streets. In a list often defined by premature endings in clinical tragedies, Kem stands as a testament to the power of transformation. He proved that even when you are labeled as being in the depths of struggle, you can still emerge as a beacon of hope through unyielding faith and a refusal to let your past define your final note. D'Angelo was the enigmatic visionary who single-handedly revitalized R&B, crafting a sonic landscape that blended organic instrumentation with raw, gospel-infused sensuality. His masterpiece, Brown Sugar, redefined a generation, but the adulation he received became his primary tormentor. As his fame exploded, D'Angelo found himself increasingly alienated by an industry that prioritized his chiseled physique over his musical intellect. This internal friction, coupled with the devastating loss of a close friend in 2001, triggered a catastrophic retreat from the limelight into a haze of self-medication. For over a decade, the man hailed as the successor to Prince vanished, replaced by a recluse struggling with a severe dependency on alcohol and illicit substances. The physical toll was jarring. By 2005, a series of drug possession arrests and a near-fatal car accident revealed a shocking transformation. The once athletic icon appeared unrecognizable in mugshots, overweight, broken, and hollowed out by his vices. His addiction cost him his relationships, his management, and nearly his sanity, as the records the world craved remained locked away in a mind paralyzed by chemical fog. However, unlike many on this list, D'Angelo's story features a hard-fought redemption. Seeking refuge at the Crossroads Center in Antigua, he began the grueling process of purging the toxins from his system. His 2014 return with Black Messiah was more than just a musical comeback. It was a spiritual resurrection. It proved that despite a decade lost to the shadows of addiction and self-loathing, a true artist can reclaim their throne. D'Angelo's journey remains a poignant study of the heavy price of genius and the fragile boundary between artistic devotion and destructive obsession. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway was a titan of musicality, a man whose voice possessed an ancient, comforting warmth that could soothe the collective ache of a generation. Yet his immense brilliance was inextricably tied to a harrowing psychological landscape. While many in the industry fell victim to the allure of the nightlife, Hathaway's struggle was a dual-front war. He was battling a severe diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia alongside a debilitating reliance on illicit substances used to silence the voices in his head. The medical regimen required to stabilize his condition was staggering, often involving up to 28 pills a day. This chemical cocktail, intended to anchor him to reality, frequently stifled his creative fire, leading to a dangerous cycle where Hathaway would abandon his medication to reclaim his artistry, only to be consumed by vivid hallucinations. By the late 1970s, the soul legend was living in a state of heightened terror, convinced that sinister forces were attempting to harvest his brain and steal his vocal gift. His addiction wasn't just a pursuit of pleasure, it was a desperate, failed attempt to self-medicate a mind that was slowly fracturing under the weight of its own genius. The climax of this tragedy occurred in 1979 during a recording session in New York. Amidst a wave of severe delusions and paranoia, the session was abruptly halted. Hours later, the world was shaken by the news that Hathaway had plummeted from a 15th floor window of the Essex House Hotel. Whether it was a final act of desperation or a tragic misstep in a clouded state of mind, his death marked the ultimate price paid for a brilliance that the human vessel simply could not contain. Hathaway left behind a celestial body of work, but his life remains a somber reminder that for some, the music is a beautiful bridge spanning a terrifying abyss. Al Green. Al Green is often celebrated as the definitive voice of romantic soul, a man whose silky smooth delivery could melt the coldest hearts. However, long before he became a pillar of the church, his existence was a turbulent mosaic of hedonism and hazardous choices. Exiled from his deeply religious household as a youth for his secular musical tastes, Green was thrust into a gritty, uncompromising landscape. During these formative years, he immersed himself in a lifestyle defined by street-level hustling and a recurring involvement with illicit substances, a period that laid the groundwork for a volatile personal life. The shadows of his chemical dalliances often manifested in erratic and violent outbursts. Throughout the 1970s, the Love and Happiness singer was frequently entangled in legal skirmishes, facing accusations of physical aggression against associates and employees. These incidents hinted at a man spiraling out of control, fueled by the pressures of his skyrocketing career and the instability of his private habits. Yet the true catalyst for his total life overhaul was a horrific domestic tragedy in 1974, where a spurned lover assaulted him with boiling grits before ending her own life. This traumatic event served as a divine wake-up call, shattering his connection to the decadent lifestyle that had nearly consumed him. In an extraordinary act of spiritual reclamation, Green turned his back on the secular industry at the height of his powers. He sought sanctuary in the pulpit, becoming an ordained pastor and dedicating himself to gospel music. This wasn't merely a career shift, it was a total purification of his soul. He traded the smoke-filled clubs and chemical escapes for the full gospel tabernacle in Memphis. While he eventually made a graceful return to the pop charts years later, he did so as a man transformed. Green's legacy is unique on this list. It is not a story of a life lost to vice, but of a soul snatched back from the brink through a radical surrender to faith. Charlie Wilson. Charlie Wilson, affectionately known as Uncle Charlie, stands as an extraordinary symbol of survival in the fickle world of R&B. As the charismatic engine behind the Gap Band, he dominated the airwaves with funk masterpieces that defined an era. However, when the group's management structure imploded in 1986, Wilson's world collapsed alongside it. Stripped of his publishing rights and financial security, the man who once moved millions to dance found himself descending into a harrowing abyss of cocaine and crack dependency, an escape that quickly morphed into a brutal prison. The fall was swift and devastating. For 2 agonizing years, the outstanding singer was reduced to a ghost haunting the streets of Los Angeles. Wilson's existence became a grueling daily marathon for survival, where he sought refuge in alleyways and showered under commercial sprinklers. His physical transformation was tragic. His frame withered away to a skeletal 130 pounds, a haunting reflection of the toll his addiction had exacted. Despite his legendary status, he was shunned by former associates, left to navigate the unforgiving concrete jungle as an invisible casualty of the industry's dark side. The turning point in Wilson's narrative is one of the most heartwarming redemptions in music history. In 1994, he met Maheen, a dedicated drug counselor who saw the man behind the addiction. With her unwavering support, Wilson successfully navigated the grueling path to sobriety, purging the toxins from his life and reclaiming his legendary voice. His subsequent solo career didn't just mirror his past success, it eclipsed it. Today, Charlie Wilson is a multi-Grammy nominee and a beacon of hope, proving that even after losing everything to the streets, one can rise, rebuild, and become an elder statesman of the very genre that almost watched him fade away. Jackie Wilson. Jackie Wilson, famously dubbed Mr. Excitement, was a powerhouse of kinetic energy, a man whose operatic range and gravity-defying splits paved the way for future legends like James Brown and Michael Jackson. Yet beneath the dazzling showmanship and the string of over 50 chart-topping hits, Wilson was a man ensnared in a web of exploitation and personal trauma. His career was a paradox. While he was a titan of the stage, his private life was dictated by a volatile combination of mob-linked management, IRS scrutiny, and a growing reliance on amphetamines and alcohol to sustain his superhuman performance schedule. The true unraveling of Jackie Wilson began not on the charts, but in the depths of his soul. The 1970s brought a wave of unspeakable domestic tragedies that pushed his chemical dependencies to a breaking point. The shooting death of his teenage son, Jackie Jr., in 1970 plunged the singer into a cavernous depression, leading him to seek solace in a heavy, destructive regimen of stimulants and spirits. As his family structure continued to fracture, with 2 daughters later losing their lives to heart failure and drug-related violence, the excitement began to drain from his eyes. His addiction wasn't just a byproduct of fame, it was a desperate armor against a reality that was becoming increasingly unbearable. The final curtain call for Wilson was as dramatic as his performances. In 1975, while singing his hit Lonely Teardrops, he suffered a massive heart attack on stage, collapsing into a vegetative state that lasted nearly 9 years until his death. His trajectory remains a somber illustration of how the relentless demand for entertainment can hollow out an artist's core. Diesel Wilson gave the world his sweat, his voice, and his vitality, But in the end, he was a man who became a casualty of the very intensity that made him a star. A legend who lived fast and was ultimately silenced by the weight of his own brilliance and pain. Gerald Levert. Gerald Levert was the soulful heir to a musical dynasty, a man whose velvet-toned baritone and teddy bear persona made him an absolute titan of contemporary R&B. Born into the shadow of his legendary father, Eddie Levert, Gerald carved out his own formidable path as a prolific singer, songwriter, and producer. However, the relentless grind of the recording industry and the physical toll of constant touring took a hidden, agonizing toll. To the public, he was the picture of romantic strength, but behind closed doors, Levert was grappling with chronic pain and debilitating anxiety that led him down a dangerous pharmaceutical path. Unlike some who sought refuge in street-level narcotics, Gerald's ordeal was a cleaner, but no less fatal trap. He became ensnared in a complex web of legal medications, using a cocktail of potent painkillers and anti-anxiety stimulants to maintain his professional momentum. The pressures of leading groups like Levert and the supergroup LSG, while managing a solo career, created a cycle of stress that only more pills could seem to numb. His family later revealed that his reliance on these substances wasn't a pursuit of a high, but a desperate attempt to mitigate the lingering agony of past injuries and the crushing weight of industry expectations. The tragic climax of this chemical dependency arrived on November 10, 2006. At just 40 years old, a peak age for his artistry, Levert was discovered unresponsive in his Cleveland home. The subsequent toxicology report shattered the heart of the music world, revealing a lethal accumulation of Vicodin, Percocet, Xanax, and various antihistamines. It was a classic accidental toxicity, a case of a man trying to heal his body but inadvertently silencing his soul. Gerald's passing remains a somber, cautionary tale about the invisible dangers of prescription culture and the high price of maintaining a superstar facade while the human vessel is silently breaking. Natalie Cole. Natalie Cole carried the weight of a royal musical lineage, the daughter of the incomparable Nat King Cole. She initially shattered records as the first African-American to win Best New Artist at the Grammys, but the sheer velocity of her success acted as a catalyst for a harrowing plunge into a dark, chemical underworld. By the early 1980s, the inseparable star had become a captive of a brutal addiction to heroin and crack cocaine. Her life didn't just stumble, it cratered into a state of absolute degradation, where she functioned as a lookout for illicit street activities, a tragic distance from the sophisticated world of jazz she was born into. The depths of her dependency were marked by terrifying brushes with mortality. At the nadir of her struggle, she was so consumed by the craving that she once refused to evacuate a burning building, paralyzed by her need for the next fix. Another chilling incident involved her young son nearly drowning in the family pool, while she remained in a drug-induced stupor nearby. These moments of profound negligence served as a visceral wake-up call. Realizing that her path led only to the grave or a prison cell, Natalie made a monumental decision in 1983 to surrender to a rigorous 6-month rehabilitation program, a move that would define the rest of her life. What followed was one of the most triumphant third acts in entertainment history. Purged of the toxins that had nearly erased her, Natalie embarked on a meticulous reconstruction of her career. She bridged the gap between R and B and her father's legendary standards, eventually culminating in the historic success of Unforgettable with Love. Her comeback wasn't just a professional milestone, it was a spiritual victory over the generational shadows and the substances that had threatened to extinguish her flame. Natalie Cole's journey remains a powerful testament to the possibility of absolute renewal, proving that even a soul lost in the darkest corners of addiction can reclaim its crown. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston, universally hailed as the Voice, was a generational talent whose soaring range and effortless grace set the gold standard for pop and R&B. However, behind the flawless public facade and the record-breaking accolades, Houston was battling a silent, encroaching tide of substance abuse. What began as a recreational escape during the high-pressure era of The Bodyguard gradually mutated into a catastrophic daily dependency. The purity of her gift became increasingly at odds with the chemical chaos of her private life, leading to a public decline that broke the hearts of millions. The trajectory of her struggle was marked by moments of heartbreaking transparency and defiant denial. In her infamous 2002 interview, she attempted to reclaim her narrative with the phrase, "Crack is whack," yet the physical toll was already undeniable. By the mid-2000s, the once radiant superstar appeared fragile and gaunt, a casualty of a persistent cycle of cocaine, marijuana, and alcohol. Despite multiple high-stakes interventions led by her family, including her mother, Cissy Houston, and several stints in luxury rehabilitation facilities, the grip of addiction remained unyielding. The industry's demands and the intense scrutiny of her personal life created a vacuum that she felt only substances could fill. The final act of this tragedy unfolded on February 11, 2012, at the Beverly Hilton. On the eve of the Grammy Awards, a stage she once dominated, Houston was found unresponsive in her bathtub. The toxicology findings revealed a grim cocktail of cocaine, Xanax, and muscle relaxants, confirming that her heart had finally buckled under the weight of chronic use. Her passing was not just the loss of a singer, but the extinguishing of a cultural lighthouse. Whitney Houston's story remains the ultimate cautionary tale of the R&B world, a reminder that even the most heavenly voice can be drowned out by the relentless current of addiction. Dave Prater. Dave Prater Jr. was the deep, resonant foundation of Sam and Dave, one half of the most electrifying duo to ever grace the Southern soul landscape. His baritone delivery brought a gritty, gospel-infused weight to classics like "Hold On, I'm Comin'," creating a call and response dynamic that felt like a spiritual revival. However, as the duo's professional brotherhood disintegrated in 1970, Prater found himself unmoored. Without the synergy of his partner and the stability of the Stax era, he drifted into a solitary existence, shadowed by an encroaching dependence on potent street substances, a struggle that remained largely hidden from his adoring public. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, Prater's solo trajectory was a series of sporadic performances and failed attempts to recapture the lightning of his youth. The chemical fog of crack cocaine began to distort his reality, leading to a devastating encounter with the law in the summer of 1987. The man who had once been a beacon of black excellence was apprehended for selling narcotics to an undercover operative. This legal entanglement resulted in a 3-year probationary sentence, stripping away the last vestiges of his superstar dignity. Despite the public humiliation, those closest to him, particularly his wife, believed he was finally finding the internal fortitude to purge the toxins and reclaim his legacy. Tragically, fate would not allow for a complete third act. On April 9, 1988, just a year after his arrest and during a period of perceived recovery, Prater's life was abruptly extinguished in a violent vehicular accident. He died not in the clutches of an overdose, but in the wreckage of a car, leaving behind a narrative that felt profoundly unfinished. His story is a poignant postscript to the Sam and Dave legend, a reminder of the isolation that often follows the spotlight. Dave Prater's passing marked the end of an era, leaving the world to wonder if he would have finally conquered his demons had time been on his side. The stories of these 15 icons remind us that the path to black excellence is often paved with both gold and thorns. While their struggles with addiction were deeply personal, They were frequently exacerbated by a relentless industry that prioritized profit over the artist's humanity. But here is the real question. Does the pain they endured make their music more profound? Or did the world simply demand too high a price for their genius? We want to hear from you in the comments below. Who do you think had the most tragic journey? And more importantly, who deserved a better ending? Don't forget to like and subscribe to Black Excellence Legends for more deep dives into the lives of our greatest stars.